Hi everyone. Today I wanted to talk about a 1953 movie called Beautiful Days. It's directed by Masaki Kobayashi and it's part of the second video discussion of Kobayashi's movies in roughly chronological order. Beautiful Days is kind of an ironic title. The main protagonist, these are not beautiful days, the film opens with an elderly couple that meet haphazardly. They develop a friendship. For them, these are beautiful days, and despite all of the things that they've been through together, the war and the loss of children, grandchildren, the struggles, but they've achieved a sort of wisdom, a wisdom of being able to see things clearly. And there's a beautiful scene where they're walking down one of the major thoroughfares of Tokyo on a beautiful day, and the elderly woman says, "But you should see it. You should see this street, which has been paved with red brick. We should see it when it rains." Then it's really beautiful, which the elderly man does in fact do by himself. He walks in a pouring rain down the street um, on this red brick lined street to experience that beautiful day for himself, even though it's pouring rain. But the protagonist, as I said, they're not having beautiful days. They're struggling mightily in the post-war era. The war, this is about the aftermath of the war and how it affected young people who had dreams, pre-war dreams, that simply the harsh realities of life they're unable to achieve them. They're disappointed. They struggle with the whole concept of love. In Kobayashi's movies, love between a man and a woman can be very torturous. It's a trial. It's something that in Kobayashi's world can yield to a greater fulfillment just from the sense of going through that trial, being a good person. The one protagonist doesn't believe he's worthy of the woman that loves him. This is the granddaughter of the elderly woman. They work in a flower shop. They've survived the war, even though she's lost both her parents. She's lost her brother, but she's very much. And the brother that she's lost, they were part of four middle school students that have developed a lifelong, or presumably they're going to have a lifelong friendship, but they've sort of drifted apart. They're struggling so mightily, and he is an idealistic would-be doctor researcher, and he works at a hospital. He wants to, when poor people come that can't pay, he gives them a hospital bed. He gives them medicine. But this is a for-profit hospital. There's no universal health care in Japan at the time, so the owner chastised, "You can't do this. Who's going to pay for all this?" But he sees that as his duty to take care of these people, even if they can't afford the health care that they need. So he quits, and he just can't compromise his sense of integrity. But he also feels that this is an impediment. So how can I marry this woman when I'm just not, I'm not at home with myself, comfortable with myself? The other main protagonist had been a college graduate. He wanted to become a lawyer, but in the post-war era, there's very little jobs for him to finance that ambition. But he is a musician, so he plays in a nightclub. And one of the hostesses there is a woman that he's known for many years. She has gotten divorced. She has a child. He's very affectionate. He's very willing to help her out. She has a sick mother. He finds money for her, but he's acting very cynical. He doesn't believe in even his friendships, his boyhood friendships. He doesn't see the meaning to them anymore. The world has changed too much. So he too goes through the trial, and falling for a divorced woman with a child is kind of a stain in society in the 1950s, and he has to struggle with the whole fact that am I really able to express this love that is within him, but has sort of been damaged by his experiences both in the war and his disappointment in the way his life is going in the post-war era. So we have these conflicts that I said in the beginning are very well contrasted to me with the elderly couple and who have gained this sense of wisdom. Now they may be this elderly couple may be the kind of house style stock type characters of the studio where Kobayashi worked, Yoshihiko. The Beautiful Days is the third of 4 films that are kind of Kobayashi purgatory. He had made a movie called The Thick-Walled Room. As his second feature was about Japanese low-level Japanese prisoners who are kept in jail because they've been accused of atrocities, convicted of atrocities, having committed atrocities. And it was a film that his studio, Shoujiko, when they saw it, they shelved it. They didn't want to release it. It would get released after these 4 films, as these 4 Kobayashi Purgatory movies had been completed, because the whole situation was changing in Japan, and it was the flowering, the golden age of Japanese cinema, and it had room for critiques of Japanese society, of the Japanese wartime experiences, the horrors of it in Kobayashi's view and his own personal experience, obviously the seminal experience of his life and for Japanese culture in this particular era. But so these 4 movies, Kobayashi described them as I had to make sweet domestic dramas in the Kinoshita style as well, because Kobayashi had interned under Kinoshita, and he was expert at these sweet domestic dramas. But I can't really say that that these are minor works, because Kobayashi is a fantastic visual director. He's great at performance, and his narratives really do flow. They're fast-paced. He's a humanist. You feel for these characters. You want them to succeed, to win over, and to be the victor in the struggles. But they're not bleak. Kobayashi's later films would become very bleak. Here, there's hope. And there's some hope, I think, in probably in some other Kobayashi movies, but certainly, and his directing style, and Stephen Prince goes into a couple of passages in Beautiful Days, analyzes a couple of passages in his book, Dream of Resistance. And this is not a Kobayashi personal project. In Prince's view, Kobayashi comes into his own when he describes the resistance of the artistic resistance in Kobayashi's vision of the world, the society around him. But Kobayashi has some really excellent camera movements, long takes, which he describes, that really bring out the performances. And so I found this a fascinating movie. I liked it even better the second time I watched it. So that'll wrap up this video. The next video is another one of these, the last of the 4 Purgatory films. The first 2 are unavailable anywhere so that I could find. Stephen Prince talks about them in some length, so they're not lost films. Kobayashi's 100th anniversary was 2016, but from what I found in my research on the internet, it went unrecognized in both Japan and here as well, in the United States, and probably even all around the world. Outside of his major films, the 4 major films that have releases around the world, these early films have been relatively disregarded. This film and all the films that I'm going to talk about of this Kobayashi discussion are available on the Criterion channel. Okay, you guys take care, and I will catch you next time.